The safety is off. There's a round in the chamber. This is Armed Alabama. Sponsored by McCoy Outdoor Company, Mobile's hometown full-line outdoor sporting products and gear store. An interactive talk show discussing self-defense, product reviews, shooting tips, safety, and more. Your calls, comments, and texts welcome at 343-0106. Now, here are your hosts, retired judge and certified NRA instructor Rusty Johnston and certified NRA law enforcement instructor Adam Strange.
They're gonna pry these guns right out of my hands when they come to take them away. I believe in the rights that my fathers gave me when he signed the Constitution that day. No misguided president or crooked politician with a greasy pocket be spared. When the hard-working man gets tired of your cry, it's gonna rain wrath, beware. Don't tread on me, I'm American free. You're not gonna take it away. I stand up and fight for my freedoms and rights. That's a price you'll have to pay. Don't tread on me, I'm American free. Red-blooded to the core. You ain't ever had a fight in your life like the fight that you're itching for.
All right, welcome to Armed Alabama, the 2-hour show where we discuss self-defense, firearm ammo selection, home protection, concealed carry, training, proper range etiquette, and of course the law. So glad you can join us tonight for Tuesday's show. Tuesday is my favorite day of the week, just so I can come in here and be on the show with you guys. So thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. We've already got some text messages coming in. Jared texts Armed Alabama, exclamation point. So we're glad that Jared was ready for our show and appreciate that shout out, Jared. If you have a comment or a question, anything, you can text us or you can call to the station here, 251-343-0106. And we'll also be broadcasting live, or simulcasting, that is, on our Facebook page through Facebook Live, and that is Armed Alabama Radio, FM Talk 106.5. So be sure and check out our Facebook page. So we got to also have a lot of information there that we post from time to time about content, news information, of course, gun laws, gun news, self-defense news, and any myriad retaining to that. We're also getting ready to attend the NRA National Convention in Atlanta. So we're excited about that. We're excited about the possibilities that may hold to go and meet with lots of different people throughout the industry, of course, that will be there. And, of course, being at the NRA convention, which is something I've always wanted to do, but it's never been this close. It's always been in Indiana or someplace like that, but to be in Atlanta only 6 hours away, so we definitely had to drop everything and attend that. Both myself and the judge are life members. We're both NRA life members, and we're both NRA firearms instructor. He has several different instructor certifications with pistol certification and with, I think it's defensive pistol inside the home and outside the home. I think that's correct.
Are you guys going to have a booth there, or are you just
No, we're going to go from booth to booth.
Oh, all right. Well,
yeah, we're going to be
actually that can be more fun.
Oh, yeah, because we're going to walk around and poke fun at everybody. You know.
Yeah. Are you going to take Chase and be on Facebook and all of that, or are you just going to go
if
there and
Chase
have fun?
wants to go, we'll have to definitely bring him. You know, he keeps us straight here.
Keep a rolling camera
on the air. Yeah, we'll definitely, and that's one of the things we will do as we're there. At the NRA convention, we'll definitely be posting on Facebook, tweeting, of course, live, and then Facebook Live with some of the individuals that we've got lined up to meet there. We've got several people that we're going to meet, and looking forward to doing that.
You already have a program. I was going to ask you if you, off the top of your head, and I realize I didn't ask you this before, but any word on some of the speakers or presenters that are going to be there?
Yeah,
because it's got to be the NRA stars.
Well, yeah, it's going. Yeah, all the NRA stars are going to be there, of course. You know, and present and talk about different things. It's going to be if you're just interested in the industrial side of it or the marketing side of it. There's going to be all the firearm manufacturers are going to be there. All the holster manufacturers, if it's gear or garments that you're into, then they definitely will all be at the NRA convention. But you also have the legislative action side, and they'll be kind of hosting some classes, if you will, during the convention, so you can learn to more about being a firearm activist or activist for the Second Amendment. So it's really going to be good, and we're excited about attending, the judge and myself. So we'll definitely, as we go, be broadcasting on Facebook Live and tweeting, of course, and taking a lot of pictures. So be sure and check us out on Facebook for that. And of course, when we come back, we will definitely be broadcasting, what we've seen, what we saw, and who we met. And so definitely we're ready for that.
Adam, I had a question real quick.
Well, I might have an answer real quick.
How can someone get involved with the NRA in our local areas? What can we do?
Oh, that's really good. As a matter of fact, there's a local group. It's our friends at NRA, and you can join that group and be a member of it locally. Of course, you can join the NRA as part of the national organization, and of course, the money you contribute, goes to further gun rights, so Second Amendment rights. But also a lot of things that people don't realize, and what I've been involved in, and that is the NRA law enforcement side of it. Where they go all over the United States and the world and teach law enforcement agencies firearms and how to be firearms instructor, and teach other law enforcement agents or agencies the proper use of whatever platform they're using. So if it's a pistol, of course, it'd be pistol classes, or shotgun, or a patrol rifle platform, which is an AR or something like that.
So to be a certified instructor, not only do you have to be an expert at it, but you've got to take some classes?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's one thing to be able to be proficient at shooting a firearm, but
that
also
doesn't make you an instructor.
Well, yes, exactly. So you have to, they focus on communication, of course, and the literature and everything that goes with that. And it's a really good program. They've got seven different NRA law enforcement classes. I think that's right. This pistol, handgun, shotgun, which is a combo class, a patrol rifle, a tactical class. I think one of them is just a straight up instructor class. So it may not be 7, maybe only 5. But anyway, I've taken the handgun, shotgun class, the combo class, and the NRA law enforcement patrol rifle class, which was both of them is a really good program taught by usually retired police officers or highway patrol, or in the classes I had was highway patrol and retired FBI.
And in our case, a retired judge.
Yeah.
Now, we've been contacted by some of the friends of the NRA, the Mobile Bay area. Friends of the NRA, they have their, what would you call it? They kind of get together on May 18th at the USS Alabama hangar.
Yeah, that's the Friends of the NRA, and they're going to have that dinner, which is always a really good event. We go every year, so that's something that we definitely want to support and be a part of. And do you have the information there, Chase, as far as who everybody can get contact with to attend that event? I don't have it in front of me. And if not, we can announce it later.
Yeah, I got it right here. And what I'll be, make sure I put it up on the Facebook later for everyone as well.
Yeah, definitely do that. Put it up where everybody can see it on Facebook.
That'd probably be better instead of reading out the email address, because
very long.
I always forget them.
And you can go online to the NRA's website and go to the Friends of the NRA link there, and that will put you in touch with the local organization. So that's a really easy and quick way to find that, or you can Google Friends of the NRA Mobile Chapter.
But we are live on Facebook now. I'm sorry it took me a little bit to catch up.
That's not a problem.
And you have color cameras.
I upgraded yesterday for them.
Okay, thank you.
So definitely check us out on Facebook. We're on Armed Alabama Radio FM Talk. That's our Facebook page. And definitely go on there and comment and like. We're also on YouTube. We have a Armed Alabama channel on YouTube. Be sure to go on there and like and subscribe, and that way you'll be privy to any content that we post in the future.
And it's not just a show that goes up there. We have extra content that we don't put anywhere else that you can only get on YouTube. And if you go and watch the shows on YouTube, no ads. You get to watch the show. You get all the great stuff without the breaks.
And as we go to break, let's encourage John to call us back because he had a great ammo question.
Yeah, he did, and we didn't get a chance to get to him. So, John, if you will, give us a call back, and we'll catch you after the break with more Armed Alabama. All right, welcome back to Armed Alabama. Glad you could join us, or if you stuck with us through the break, and appreciate you hanging there with us. We've still got a lot of show here for you. Be sure and check us out on Facebook. That's Armed Alabama Radio, FM Talk 106.5. We are broadcasting live simultaneously on Facebook as well as over the air.
Yeah, it's Saturday morning, right? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, what?
I gave it away. We're not live, actually. It's all staged.
So just want to announce as well, we will be doing a concealed carry class and home defense class at Three Brothers Arms Saturday, May 13th. So if you're interested in our level 1 defensive handgun class, then definitely give us a shout out. You can either you can email me, Adam at armedalabama.com.
Adam, you know, we've got an easier one. If you have questions, but if you go to the website first, read the information, you can pay for it there, register there, and then if you have questions, you
can email us.
Pretty extensive information about it.
So, and our website is armedalabama.com, and definitely go there to our section where we have training, and you can go and read all about our class and join and pay right there online. And it's going to be easy to sign up, and the class is only $125. So definitely it's going to be affordable, and it's going to be a fun day. That's going to be Saturday, May 13th. So definitely take this opportunity to sign up for our level 1 defensive handgun class.
And those of you that have either a discount certificate from McCoy's for 15% off, or one from Patreon, if you're at some level, you got a was it $20 off a class? Whatever it was, I don't have it at the tip of my tongue. I've got an explanation there. What the certificate, since we don't have copies of the certificate. What we do is you pay the full amount and you bring the certificate with you, and we'll refund that I think is $18.75. We'll refund that on your credit card, and what's that? Okay, $30 off. That's very good. That pays your range fee, and we will refund that to you all. Either one of them. It's just hard when we don't. We can look you up on Patreon. That's not a problem. If you use the same name and email address, we can handle that. But it kind of explains it there. But if you're not paying a lot of attention, like me sometimes, you wouldn't understand that. And also, if McCoy's didn't give you a certificate, you can just bring your receipt showing you bought a handgun down there within the last year, and we'll go ahead and handle it that way.
Speaking of handguns, Judge, we have a text here. Says the individual is looking to buy a pistol to carry. Never owned a pistol before, looking for recommendations. So you and I will probably give 2 different recommendations.
Well, he ought to come over here. I've got 6 or 8 for sale.
But definitely, I would recommend going to McCoy's because they've got a large section there. You can walk in there, and they got a friendly, helpful staff and knowledgeable staff that can put you in a firearm that you may like. Me personally, it depends on exactly what you're wanting to use.
Is he going to carry it all the time?
Yeah, if you're going to carry it all the time.
If
you're kind of a larger person or a smaller person, medium size, what have you.
Same question.
What's your comfort? I mean, it's different. What your comfort level is. What type of pistol do you think you're wanting? Do you want a subcompact? Exactly. Do you want a subcompact, or do you want more of a full size? I'm impartial as far as carrying a firearm. I'm partial to the Steyr C9. Matter of fact, I got one on order right now from McCoy's. I'm carrying the M9A1, the Steyr M9A1. Like that. It's very thin. It's a very comfortable weapon, and it's a really good firearm as far as larger frame. It's a good firearm to carry because you don't feel it so much, especially as compared to some of the others I carry, like my Springfield XDM and SIG. So they're a lot bigger and kind
that's
of
where
clunky.
putting your hands on the grip is just critical.
So that's why I kind of like the Steyr. But each person is to his own. But Judge, you like the Beretta Nano, is that right? That's what you recommend?
It's kind of one of those things. If I'm trying to kind of go more concealed, a little deeper concealment, I like that Nano because it's 9mm and it's the thinnest. Beretta had the problem with thick guns for a while, but it's a thin gun. I mean, my favorite carry gun is probably the FNP 9mm because polymer a little lighter, but it's a little small for my hands. That's kind of hard to believe, but it's not long enough. And they don't sell extended magazines, even though it's a 15-round magazine. And I say for that from the standpoint, my pinky finger will kind of catch the bottom of the magazine sometimes, and if I'll eject it, it'll hang up and keep it from ejecting properly. And that came from somebody watching me do it.
Right.
And I would have never dreamed that.
So recommending firearms is like recommending a car.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
love my Beretta
what kind
M9,
of car you like.
but a little heavy.
Yeah.
So
when you're talking to recommend firearms, it's like recommending a car. You talk about what somebody's like. It's like, well, I like a lot of horsepower. Well, what about a Camaro SS? And they're like, well, I was looking more towards a Prius. And they're like, well, I can't help you there.
Well, that's right. Now, do you know what happened on this date in 1865? Now, this is one date you ought to remember. General Richard Taylor pulled out of Mobile, declared Mobile an open city in order to prevent it being looted, pounded to the ground, destroyed, like the Yankees had so many other cities. And he and a number of civilians, including they took the presses from the Mobile newspaper, they evacuated to Citronelle, and the Union forces that had finished fighting a 7-day battle at Blakely and Spanish Fort moved into the city. And they say that battle was actually the largest and largest battle of the war. And that happened actually the Union moved in tomorrow, but he pulled out today. And, General Lee surrendered on the 9th. And so many people thought that was the surrender of the Confederacy. And Mrs. Lee was asked, what do you think about the surrender of your husband and the end of the war? And she said, my husband is not the Confederacy. And she was in Richmond there, in effect, captured. And she made that statement. But to show you how we had the boot on our neck, several months later, there's a prayer in the Episcopal prayer book that is a prayer for the president and all civil authorities. And, of course, during the war, that was changed to President Davis and all civil authorities. Well, during the occupation, there were no civil authorities. We were under a military occupation. So that was changed. It was just eliminated. Well, the bishop here in Mobile was over the entire state, and the general here in Mobile ordered one of his people to go see the bishop, and he says, well, let's cut through it all. Bishop, when are you gonna change your prayer to pray for President? It would be Johnson, of course. When are you going to do that? And the bishop told him, when all you get away from here, was the reply of the bishop. So, interesting week in history as that war came to a close. But we had proof 2 weeks ago now that Joe Biden was wrong. And, of course, we know about the AR-15 shooting. But I wanted to look up his quote. And his quote was, I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here and take that double-barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts outside of the house. You don't need an AR-15, he said. It's harder to aim. It's harder to use. And, in fact, you don't need 30 rounds to protect yourself. That fellow in Broken Arrow, Arizona, needed more than 2 rounds.
Yes, he did, and he was 21 years old.
Yep.
He was a young guy.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with that case, it was 3 or 4 individuals had broken into his home and actually broke into their garage earlier.
3 guys, and the girl was the ringleader
Yeah.
out in the getaway car.
So they had broken into the garage earlier, and then I guess they got thinking about all the loot that possibly was in the house. So they came back and came into the house while the young man was sleeping on the couch. At that point, he was alarmed at they were coming into the home, and he retrieved the AR-15 and shot all 3 of them with the AR-15.
And she took off, apparently.
So I can't remember, did all 3 of them die, or 2 of them had died?
I'm getting that one and another one confused. Let's see.
Yeah, I am too.
She's going to be charged with what we call felony murder because they were killed during the course of a crime.
Right, and that's according to their state law. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a similar law, and it's rarely used, but I did try one time, which was kind of interesting. When the smoke had cleared, 2 of the masked thugs lay dead, and the third died outside.
Yeah, he died. Okay. All right. So all 3 of them had died. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So
and then what I
not?
thought was ironic or somewhat had a little bit of hilarity with that is one of the family members of the burglars that had gotten killed complained and stated that the AR-15 user had an unfair advantage over his grandson, I think.
I want that unfair advantage.
Every time, anytime, all the time.
You're darn right.
Speaking of unfair advantage, when we come back, we will talk about human cognitive management and processing throughput of the OODA loop. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
Stay with us after hearing that. I'll tell you about
a tease to make you hang on.
I'll tell you that General Sherman planned the attack on Mobile, by the way. That's more interesting.
All right, we'll be back with more Alabama, Armed Alabama, after this break. All right, welcome back to Armed Alabama. Just a little update. Got a message from McCoy Outdoors. I was speaking about my firearm earlier, and that I had ordered. It was a Steyr.
They said, bring money.
C9. They actually got it for me.
Whoa.
So I definitely have to go and pick it up. Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I didn't have to fork over the money, Bittersweet, though. Bittersweet. Hey, you got to take the good with the bad. All right, before we left for the break, I had kind of left you with a little teaser on something that we were talking about, or going to talk about tonight, and that is human cognitive management and processing throughput of the OODA loop. So that is a huge mouthful. And Judge, as maybe some that had read my bio, I have a background in process engineering.
Yeah, I kind of overlooked that.
Yeah, as most people probably should.
Yeah.
But, I'm a process nerd, and so as far as firearms training and defensive firearms.
We always said strike the engineers from the jury. Whatever you do, strike the engineers.
Yeah, because they get into the details too much.
Everything's black and white.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the things that we look at as instructors, we want to tailor our firearm training syllabus to the real world. And to identify the real world, of course, you have to look at statistics that Judge and I have talked about numerous times, and when the majority of concealed carry engagements take place. And the majority of those are very dangerously close, and it's 10 feet or less. Wouldn't you agree to that, Judge?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's going to be some that's further, of course, but the majority of those is 10 feet or less. And a little less than half of that is within arm's distance. So how do you curtail or to design a syllabus around that where something is so close, but it's going to be fast, it's going to be close, and it's going to be vicious? And you have to prepare yourself for that. So how do we design a training?
In under 5 seconds, and I'm kind of stretching it.
Yeah, probably 3 seconds or less.
Yeah.
So how do you design training for that? And before designing it, you have to be able to encapsulate everything that goes on within a concealed carry engagement or a defensive situation. And there are different aspects or different individuals that wrote different things. One of them that I had mentioned earlier is the OODA loop.
I've actually got the 50% take place 5 feet or less, but
yeah.
70% are 10 feet or less.
So yes, the majority is 10 feet or less.
Tire gunfight, 2.5 to 3.5 seconds. The winner fires 3.5 to 4.5 shots.
So human cognitive management is actually a process, and what it is to rate the capacity of the average person where they comprehend auditorial and visual input. So
they can hear and see.
Yeah, what you hear and see, what you can read or what have you, and this is used throughout industry, if you will. It's the automotive industry. It's also used within the aerospace industry, and it's just to assess one's sensory perception and cognitive intake. And really, aircraft manufacturers, they use it when they try to manage or assess a pilot's workload. So you don't want to put too much on a pilot where he has to fly, plus he has to look at all the systems information related to the aircraft and the functionality of it. So you have to be sure, or you have to be discreet with what you put in front of the pilot, because you definitely don't want to overload him, because you want him or her to be able to pay attention to flying the aircraft. So that is the cognitive management portion of it. The OODA loop is the steps that is used, or we use, to identify at a high level, of course, the steps used to engage and defend oneself from a threat or attacker. And the OODA loop, what it is the two O's up front stand for observe, and the next O stands for orient, the D stands for decide, and the A stands for act. And that's OODA loop. And that was designed or came up with from in the 1950s from a dog fight instructor, say as an aircraft, as a U.S. Air Force fighter pilot, and he utilized that process to teach fighter pilots how to dogfight. And so we use it in self-defense world, and it's a good tool. So you observe, orient, decide, and then act. So first, if you're in a concealed carry situation or a defensive situation, what have you, you observe the threat. You orientate yourself to the threat, which would include turning your body to the target for body alignment. So that's orientate yourself to the threat. Of course, there's sub-processes there with the 5 steps of concealed carry draw that the judge and I have talked about several times before. And also, you start instituting the 7 points of shooting at the orientation to the threat. And then your decision to act, to decide, is you assess or reassess assessment of the situation for validation of use of lethal force. And that's important. And in the actual decision to act. And of course, act is the pull of the trigger to defend yourself or a family member. So that's the OODA loop. All right, so we want to take that cognitive management and we want to put it in the frame of using it within a concealed carry or defensive situation. And it's a good tool to measure that threshold for an average person who will initiate an act, or maybe too overwhelmed by the stimuli and they freeze up or they panic. How many times we've seen that out on the range? As soon as you kind of stress an individual that's out on the range, they just kind of lock up, they kind of freeze up, or they may panic. In those situations, definitely if you do it on a range, you're definitely going to do it in a life-threatening situation. So how we get past that is we developed a syllabus to be able to train individuals to get them to get past that. And that's why it's so important to take a defensive class and not just a gun class, to stand in front of the target, slow fire 25 feet, and you then count up the hits. That's ludicrous. So you can aid yourself by training for those defensive situations. In that way, you can raise your cognitive management load and decrease the OODA loop response time and throughput times. And this will definitely increase your likelihood of winning a defensive confrontation. So it's a lot of technical jargon, but you have to boil it down to its least common denominator from those process steps to be able to identify what takes place in those events.
I just wanted to ask you, Adam, if in the OODA steps, can that decision sometimes be to withdraw?
And it could be. And that's why I say that you have to, as far as the decision portion of it, it may be the fact that may be your decision is to withdraw. You have to assess and reassess whether or not that lethal force is justified.
Yeah. Sounds like a great plan.
What? That's one of those things. It's
That's
like
the Monty Python. Run away! Run away!
But sometimes you may not need
No,
to use lethal
exactly.
force.
Exactly. And so to identify those process steps, you have to really break it down.
And I think most people, if they don't have to, would rather not.
Yeah, this is something I've been wanting to talk about for
They're
a while.
better off.
Yeah.
There's a lot of paperwork you got to fill out
Yeah.
to shoot someone.
I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. I just thought maybe it'd be a little too technical, a little too dry to go on to talk about on the air.
It was a little dry.
And it is. I got
It was
a lot
a little
more.
technical.
Yes, I got a lot more.
But, how much time do you have? And I know you know the answer, but I want it for the audience. And let's back up and say 25 feet. You've got a maniac running at you at 25. He's 25 feet away with a machete screaming, "I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
How much time before he gets to you? He's running full speed.
Yeah, less than 1.5 seconds.
Well, he's 25 feet, so you got maybe 1.75
maybe.
seconds.
Yeah.
And
Which we've timed that before.
Yeah, you got that's nothing. I mean,
It really
that's
is.
a fair amount of time, really, to understand what's happening. And
It really
pull and
is.
fire.
And you have to understand that. And that's why to break it down and those process steps are so important. And like I say, if you know statistics, which we've already given that to you, is 10 feet or less, and if you identify with certainty what transpires in that environment, in that defensive situation, and you break down that activity in its lowest common denominator, in those process steps, and what time frame or length those steps take place, then we can analyze each of those stages or actions. And that's what the judge and I have done with we kind of got us started with Matt Canova. We talk about Matt a lot on the show. He was instrumental in this and kind of us going down that realm. So, with that analysis, we developed a training syllabus, like I said, to apply improvements to support better body mechanics, controllability of the firearm, minimization of movement, elimination of steps that may not be necessarily needed.
There you go.
These help the shooter speed up the process as far as the reaction time and engagement times to minimize the time frame from threat awareness to threat engagement and threat neutralization. That is what is so important. So when we say you've got 2.5 to 3 seconds to be able to engage a threat, these are all the things that you have to go through from that time, from a threat awareness to threat engagement to threat neutralization.
A friend of mine that carries a 1911 in Houston, it's an instructor out there. Several years ago when he carried the 1911, he was afraid to carry it around in the chamber. When he got over that, worked through it, it cut a quarter of a second off of his draw fire time.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's big.
And what we're talking about is just simply reducing the defensive cycle time from the time, like I said, to say it again, for threat engagement, through threat awareness, threat engagement, and threat neutralization. So if you're standing at a target 25 feet away and you're shooting and counting up how many hits you got in the bullseye, you're setting yourself up for failure. And if you're an instructor, you're doing that, you're setting your students up for failure. We'll be back with more Armed Alabama.
Adam, we were talking about keeping a round in the chamber. There was a story from California, I don't know how it got, maybe a couple of months ago, man in his store, and he had his son with him, and he did not, Bakersfield, California, the store owner and his son quickly found themselves up against 3 armed robbers. Store owner did some things correctly, such as being armed, but his biggest and deadliest mistake was not keeping a round in the chamber. And I saw the video, and the end of the video was him on the ground trying to rack the slide, dead.
Huh.
So, it's just one of those things. One, you may forget. It's just one more thing to remember. You may just pull out and click, 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 and you're dead. But two is that one more thing about racking the slide, and it's just, unless you got a gun, I don't know if they have pistols from China, or you've got a gun that's 75 years old, that's just a fatal mistake. Let's see. We have Ray from Mobile. Finally, callers from Mobile. Hey, Ray.
How you guys doing?
Fine. Right. How about you?
Hey, I have a question about, heard the judge talking about a guy that didn't like to carry around in the chamber on a 1911. I just purchased a Colt, government model, 1911.
Yeah.
And been doing some research on it, and I understand that the safest way to carry that gun for self-defense is cocked and locked.
I know, and it seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Right, but here's my question. They say that the old Army 1911s, if you carried that gun hammered down on a round in the chamber, that you could have an accidental discharge.
That firing pin was probably, that hammer was probably tapping on the firing pin.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Like a hard bump or something, or something like that.
Yeah, getting in and out of a Jeep or a vehicle.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's probably right.
My understanding is that these new Colts, and I know mine has what's called a Series 80 trigger, which is supposed to have a hammer block.
Yeah, right. Firing pin block, yeah.
That's supposed to do away with the accidental discharge on hammer down on a round in the chamber.
I know you say it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That was my question.
I know.
Do y'all have any opinion on that? Or?
Well, I mean, I'd trust them if they say it, and I've looked at a lot of their diagrams, and I can't swear when I look at one of their schematics that it's really there, unless I took it apart, and then I probably couldn't get it back together. But I'd feel pretty certain that if they say it's there, and they call them different things, but some type of firing pin block. If I know most of them the past 25 years manufactured with them, they'll do a drop test from 10 feet. But by the way, it's safer just to let them hit the ground. Most of the discharges we had somebody call here, in fact, somebody trying to grab a gun that's spinning in the air. Just let it hit. You're going to get scratches on your gun. But, I know people that have had to convince me, but it just looks dangerous. It looks like a traditional double action, single action where you've got it cocked back.
Yeah.
And that's not what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's the only way to carry it. Cock, lock, ready to rock.
There you go.
Right. And that, that was my question. I haven't bought a holster for this gun yet, but I'm partial to open top holsters, and I see where they have holsters that are designed for cocked and locked, but it has a strap that goes in front of the hammer and buttons down, and that would keep the hammer from falling, but you still got to unbutton it and draw the weapon, so. As long as the safety's on, that shouldn't happen until you. Well,
they're doing that for a couple of reasons. They're making that it could be a single or a double retention holster, depending on, sometimes when you put the gun in the holster, it kind of grabs it.
Yeah, that's single retention.
That's single retention, but sometimes they don't. But sometimes they do. And then putting the strap makes it double retention. It just depends if you're going to work with it. And make sure, that's just reflexive where you go down, you pop that strap off, then that's fine. You've just got, if you're an open carrier, you want to go with a double retention holster of either that or some other type. But, if you're, you out of necessity, I'm not saying you're really concealed, you're just probably wearing a cover jacket over it. Or you may not, you may just take it to the range. You also may ought to test it. I'm not saying go running with it, but just to sprint 20 feet and make sure it stays in your gun good. Because believe me or not, I've had some really nice leather holsters that were for the gun that have jumped out when I've run 20 feet, and they weren't supposed to. And I had a strap put on mine. Okay. Well, that was my question, was about the really about the Series 80 trigger, and you got a nice gun though. That kind of take care of the accidental discharge on hammer down on a loaded chamber. I think you're fine. In fact, I always look at that gun every once in a while. But I know how you guys are about self-defense, and you never want to have to rack a pistol, right, in a self-defense situation. And so, wouldn't that be true also for having to cock a pistol in a self-defense situation? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Okay. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Good question.
All right, thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. Well, it's definitely good points, and each firearm has its own little eccentricities, and that's the things that you got to pick out. If you can live with it or you can't live with it. There's lots of different firearms that have different advantages. We talked earlier about looking at defense from a process standpoint, and everything that goes on within that within those processes or within that value stream map, however you want to classify it. And one of the things that we focus on is we focus on body mechanics, and to get good body mechanics, you got to have a firearm that supports good body mechanics, a good grip, to be able to have a solid grip over your firearm. And so that's one of the things that you want to look at when you purchase a firearm. How comfortable is it in your hand? Does it promote a good grip? And so you may have a firearm that has the best trigger in the world, but if it feels like you're holding a 2x4 in your hand, it's not going to do you any good. Or if it hurts your back, if you wear it, it's too heavy. And that can happen with holsters. They sell a lot of the small of the back holsters, which they promote back pain. And imagine sometimes, fortunately maybe, it doesn't develop into a gunfight. It's a physical fight. Can you imagine being pushed over with a small of the back holster on? It may break your spine. But I'm going to have up on the website, Chase, I'll send it to you the next day or two, because I'm almost finished with an article on things to consider when looking at a holster. And as I said, one, if you're ever thinking about open carry or not, you need at least a double retention holster. Now, that comes a wide variety of flavors there. The easiest one is what I carry is, I say Kydex. That's a material, but it locks when you stick it in, but it locks itself by the holster itself locks, but then you have to press a button to get it out. And that sounds terribly complicated, but once you get used to it, pressing the button, and you have three, but it makes you index your finger, so when you draw it, your finger is just where it needs to be. And, really it's very comfortable. I've worn some leather holsters that when you wear them a long time, they get pretty comfortable. But they also, like I say, have that tendency not to grab it as good as it ought to be or secure it as and that's the advantage of a Kydex holster, something along those lines of that material. And because they thermoplastic, I guess is there the main material. And, because the holster will keep its rigidity, and it helps have that level one. That's what we described earlier, that level one retention aspect of it. But if you're one of these people that can't stand a scratch on your gun or anything, that probably shouldn't be a carry gun, but it's probably not for you because it will wear it out a little, scratch it a little. Yeah, I used to be one of those guys. Now I don't even care. Yeah, you got to get over that because you shoot somebody, your gun's going to be seized for evidence. So that's just the way it is. But we'll have that up in a couple of days. It's a good thing to look at because you shouldn't. The $9.99 holster at Walmart is probably not the best one to keep your gun secure, and you ought to spend some money on a belt. And that goes into that too in the article. Buying a good belt, which is hard to do these days since most of them come in from China. That's fixing to stop. We'll be back after the break with more of Armed Alabama. All right, welcome back to the second hour of Armed Alabama. If you're just now joining us, we appreciate you joining and tuning in. If you hung with us through the break, thank you so much for staying with us. We still have 1 hour, one full hour of fantastic content. If you're just now tuning in to Armed Alabama, this is a show about self-defense, firearm and ammo selection, home protection, concealed carry training, proper range etiquette, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida law, and U.S. law. And, of course, comments on the Constitution by the judge.
Or the lack of Constitution that we seem to have. Adam, I got some gun chores out of the way this weekend. First, I sent my wife down to McCoy's. She had to get some gun cleaner for me because it showed it to you, painted a gun. So I had to get all that grease off of there. And, of course, I ran out of what I had. And now I'll try to stick with guns here for a minute, but if you've got grease and I think it's gun scrubbers, well, they'll show it. It's about $10, $12. But, sometimes you just got gunk on your guns and I'll bring the gun in next week. If you want to, I wouldn't do this, obviously, to a high-end firearm, but if you want to paint a gun, there are ways to paint a gun. But preparation's the key, just like painting your house. You got to get every bit of grease off of there, and not just on the outside, but if inside too, because inside oil will seep outside. And everybody tends to oil their guns too much. And so anything like that, but of course anything to clean your gun for the good mechanical operation. I use CLP. I've always used that instead of obviously WD-40, although I said last week, none of my guns have melted with WD-40, but cleaner, lubricant, preservative, it's just an all-around. But you can't do that if you're going to paint your gun. You got to get all the oil off. There are various ways to do it. If I had a vat of 91% alcohol, I could just a real vat, I could soak it in there for a few days, but that costs a couple $100. Don't want to do that. Sent her down there to do that. And then I went up to Ace Hardware because I had a foregrip on, this is the Sega I'm doing now, that I just needed some weird screws to go on the foregrip just to secure it a little better than I liked. Of course, I picked those up in black like I wanted, so they were already matched. I don't know where else you could find that. And I want to emphasize again, I looked over there just to make sure they had them. If you want to secure your property, do it with either you can buy cable from them or wire rope is the technical term, but get it covered in plastic, or they have the setup already. If you do it with wire rope and a padlock, your padlock can still be cut through pretty easily by a bolt cutter. They have a setup where it's all in one lock and wire rope. The wire rope is covered with plastic. You got to then get a wire rope cutter, which are, I think the cheapest one I ever found was about $135, $140. There are not many criminals out there carrying that kind of a tool around. So if you got a motorcycle, you got a lawnmower, it needs that kind of protection. Now, a rig like that will cost you more than a 10-foot piece of chain will. But if you've got a $15,000 or, $25,000 boat sitting in your driveway, that's what I would have a little extra on it instead of just a padlock on the trailer. So you can get all those unique things like that. Plus, they know what they're talking about, just like McCoy's. At all the Ace Hardware stores, that Ace Hardware in the Spring Hill Village Shopping Center, and that's the Creola Ace Hardware and Lumber, and that is the Moffett Road Ace Hardware store. All of them, they generally have the same things, although they'll have one store will have a little more of something than the other, just depending on the traffic in the stores. But the people in there are so knowledgeable, and you go up there and they count out the material that you have, put it in the bag for you. So anything you could want, from everything to build a house with, to repair your lawnmower. If you've got still an old screen door like I do, you can buy that screen that makes that wooden door slam shut. You can buy that spring there. And that's in this day and age, you could not do that except at a store. one of the Ace Hardware stores like Spring Hill. So pay them a visit, and when you do, tell them that we sent you. And by the way, out at Spring Hill, they've kind of gotten out of planting beautiful flowers and all that. But if you want to plant some beautiful plants, they got them up at Ace Hardware in the Spring Hill Village Shopping Center. So visit one of these Ace Hardware stores. You'll be glad you did. And anything from guns to running shoes, go down to McCoy's. And if you don't want to paint your own gun, they can do it down there for you because they've got a gunsmith, a real gunsmith that paints guns also. But I'll bring that in next week and show you, if you want to get into that kind of stuff, how you can do that.
Yeah, Judge, if you paint your gun black, does that mean it's tactical now?
It does. It does. You know, the one advantage of not painting it black, and my son figured this out, I didn't until he told me, until I figured out what he was up to. I couldn't figure out a number of years ago why he got one of these coyote or green guns or whatever. Well, it's because I did you're supposed to have about 25 pistols that I got from different places. We were out in the sun, and the blacks were hot as a frying pan, but the other colors weren't. And so when he finally got his, it was one of these different colors. And I thought, well, that makes sense. But those black ones were hot.
The Judge, you was talking about our advertisers earlier, and we want to call out all our advertisers, and that's David Parnell at Palmer's Toyota, Dr. Justin Foster at Foster's Chiropractic of Tillman's Corner, David Grayson of Grayson Air Condition, and the law office of Matt Green, of course, McCoy's and Ace. So without these guys and without these companies, we would not be on the air.
Well, that's right.
And we appreciate them. And we hope you patron them and visit them and tell them that hey, you heard about them on Armed Alabama.
And
if you would like,
I'm sorry.
If you would like to advertise your business on Armed Alabama Radio, we would love to have you. So you can email me or the Judge. You can email me, Adam at armedalabama.com, or the Judge at armedalabama.com, and we'll be glad to meet with you and get you set up to advertise your business on the air.
Can individuals advertise or support the show too?
Absolutely. They can do it either by buying an ad for some gun-related cause, or they can go to Patreon, www.patreon.com/Armed Alabama, or probably easier to go to our Facebook page and get the link. And $10 or more, we're going to be cranking this up, but Google has gone into a anti-gun convulsion. So we're kind of having to reorganize our platform, but I promise you in the next month we're going to get our private chat going. But it's insane what's going on out there. We'll get the calls going. Y'all call in because I'm getting ready to tell you how anti-gun Bill O'Reilly is. If you still think he's a conservative, and I don't want to get into the allegations of whatever, but I'll give you some quotes here that just show he's either stupid, which I've always thought he was stupid, frankly, and you throw that in with some know-it-allness, and it's really a bad combination. But we're going to step into a break here, but give us a call, and we will talk about Bill O'Reilly or anything else you want to talk about, new guns out there or anything else.
Yeah, and send us pictures of gun porn. Jared has already sent us a couple of pictures of firearms, so
we call that gun porn. We'll be right back with more of Armed Alabama. Welcome back to Armed Alabama. All right, Bill O'Reilly. After the Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida this past summer, he said on the O'Reilly Factor on June 14th, "There's too much gun crime in the USA, and high-powered weaponry is too easy to get." Now, the weapon he was using, Martine, didn't shoot 223s or 5.56s. I'm pretty sure, Adam, that it did. So let's deal with it. We all have the right to bear arms, but we don't have the right to buy and maintain mortars. Even if you feel threatened by gangsters or a new world order, no bazookas, no Sherman tanks, no hand grenades. That was all spelled out in the Heller versus District of Columbia case, that you don't have the right to keep and bear unusual or dangerous weapons. And nobody thinks you have the right to keep an atom bomb. Generally, you have the right to keep and maintain arms of an infantry soldier. So, but a hand grenade, I guess, could be, but no Sherman tanks. That's because the Second Amendment, this is where he's completely wrong here, clearly states the government has a right to regulate militias made up of individuals. They have the right in the name of public safety. But the right to keep and bear arms, an individual's right to keep and bear arms, according to the Supreme Court in Heller, is totally unconnected with service in a militia. You don't have to be a member of a militia in order to keep and bear arms, and that's what the Heller case said. Therefore, Congress should debate what kind of weapons should be available for public use, public sale. Okay, let's let Maxine Waters decide that. And the states, the individual states, should decide what kind of carry laws are good for their own people. Well, they do now. The FBI and other federal agencies need the power to stop suspected terrorists or other evildoers from buying weapons. What's the criteria going to be? The law needs to be very precise. He's pretty trusting in the government. Also, gun dealers all across America should be required to report the sale of certain guns, heavy weapons. Of course, most deer rifles are heavy weapons compared to a AR-15. Of course, some of the shotguns are heavier than any of those. I assume he means heavy, like weight, like 6 pounds, 8 pounds. Let's see. This same approach would make it a lot tougher for Omar Martins of the world to get the weaponry to kill. That is so shallow and so unknowledgeable of the gun laws as our Supreme Court has interpreted them, which I don't think they're necessarily correct, but it's just crazy, you know. And if we ought to be back to where we were, the states were the principal guardians of people's liberty, not the federal government.
Yeah, and that's been superseded to the government.
Yep. Everybody looks to the federal government. That's where they run to. Did you see they had the press conference where this psychologist and her lawyer call the law firm that is, I guess, in charge of taking complaints against Fox News? So they call in to complain about Bill O'Reilly. I figure I'll watch it. They claim the psychologist was sexually harassed by O'Reilly 4 years ago. You can file a claim if this is valid against an employer who makes it a condition of your employment. He sexually harasses you and then he hires you. But you have to first file a claim with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And then, and that has to be done within 180 days after the event taking place. Now, that can be extended in some states up to 300 days. This was 4 years. And I thought, how can the lawyer just sit there smiling? And see, they hadn't reported it to anybody. Reporting it to the law firm, I mean, they're really, in effect, filing a bogus claim. They have no right to collect anything, and yet they're still filing something. I don't have any sympathy for him if he did it, but they can't collect any money, so they embarrass him. And, they may be committing defamation because they know, or should know, they can't collect any money, but yet are taking the step to, we're going to publicly embarrass him. So it was just the height of nuttiness with all of that.
So, Judge, we're getting a few texts in here asking about, people are asking about different firearms, what our opinions are, and as we stated before, it's like telling somebody to buy a car. What are they looking for? What are they wanting it to do? So you may be telling somebody to buy a Mustang, but they're more in line with a Prius. So it's kind of hard to give out that information on what we recommend. I have my recommendations, and they're based on my opinions, and they're based on, if you listened in the first hour, they're based on really process flow, if you will, of what takes place in a concealed carry engagement or a defensive engagement. And we talked about body alignment and body mechanics.
Well, a short, petite, thin woman would have a different recommendation than a 6'2", well-built man who's 28.
Exactly. And so those are the things that you want to get. You want to get a pistol that supports your own body mechanics and support good body mechanics to be able to fire that pistol accurately and very fast.
Right.
Because we know the engagements take place 10 feet or less, and they happen within 2.5 to 3 seconds.
You know, one thing obviously is safety. You want to buy a pistol that has and most for sale should be safe, safety and reliability. And, you know, I would say generally you want a pistol that is not so small that you can't put it in some type of holster and carry it so it's easy to get to quickly in safety. I have as a secondary gun a couple of these small pocket pistols, but I would think it would take me 7 or 8 seconds to get into my pocket and retrieve one of those guns. And so we call those so-called mouse guns, although, listen, they could kill you, but think about going for one in your pocket and trying to get it out in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
it can happen.
It can be difficult, and those are the things you got to think about when you purchase that firearm, and then how you're going to carry it, and the holster you're going to carry it in. And then you have to practice with an empty firearm, of course, practice drawing that pistol from your holster. And that's with the type of cover garments that you normally wear.
Right.
And if you're practicing drawing your firearm and you're not worried about that cover garment, you're not worried about that jacket, or you're not worried about that T-shirt or button-up shirt that's covering up your firearm, then you're doing yourself a severe disservice. Because at that moment that you need that firearm the most to defend yourself or a loved one, you're reaching down and you're grabbing a handful of shirt as you're grabbing a hold of that pistol.
They make some great inside the waistband, the Super Tuck Deluxe and all that. You ideally need to be fairly thin, but not too thin. If you're too bony, it's going to cause some pain. Got to have a little fat.
Imprint, yeah. And
then you need your pants really a size bigger than you would normally wear.
Absolutely.
To allow room for that.
Yeah, and you have to, what the judge is saying is you have to you have to take into account carrying your firearm in a holster on you when you go to purchase clothing, whether it be pants, shirt, blouse, dress, however, you've got to take that into account.
What did Colonel Cooper say? Carrying a firearm should be comforting, not comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Well, we're getting lots of gun porn
we
here.
We sure are.
So thank you for sending pictures of your firearms here.
You know, I like these pistols, semi-automatics, that have along the frame that almost have a place to put your index finger, just to remind you to line it up there. And I don't know whether that's one, but it kind of looks like it.
Yeah, that's a Glock Model 19. So if you're looking on Facebook Live right now, we're just showing some shots of all the different people sending in their gun porn to us.
It isn't every show that has gun porn.
No.
And for everybody that just tuned in, that is a kind of a gun enthusiast term for photos of guns.
Yeah,
not naked guns.
Well, yeah, I guess they're naked because they're out of their holster.
They're out of their holster, yeah. So
exactly.
They're not naked, but they're naked.
Yeah, that's right, naked.
Yeah, and that classifies looking at gun broker.
It does. And you can
11:30 at night. Yeah.
And there, includes looking at antique guns too. So that's a little awkward, but the shotgun there is great. Don't think that it's easy to use a shotgun with one of those that doesn't have a buttstock, that just has the pistol grip.
Oh yeah.
If you've
been there, done that.
Yeah, if you're ready for it, it's not too bad. But if you're not, you've got a broken wrist.
Yeah, it's good for about 5 shots.
Yeah,
and you're like,
it's cool looking. But
yeah.
Because I bought one that came with both.
Yep.
I thought, got to try it, but
Mossberg
it gets old, yeah.
Yeah, I bought a Mossberg 500 with both. Had the pistol grip and the stock. Changed it out, shot it. I think I did shoot it about 6 times to empty the magazine, if you will.
Yeah.
And also did it at night, so it was like a flamethrower. You know?
Exactly.
It was really cool to see all that fire shooting out the end of it.
Exactly.
But after the 6 shots, you're like, I'm going to put the stock back on.
So much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It does, and I can do that.
It doesn't do any good for corporal tunnel. All right, we'll be back with more Armed Alabama after this break. I like that clip.
Oh,
and then when he comes back in, he was like, I had to come back. And he was like, I know. And then by the time he blows him out the door.
State of Missouri. Josie Wales was a Southern partisan, and, of course, the Yankees pulled out all stops to try to kill him. Adam, this is interesting. The planned attack on Mobile, which didn't really develop since General Taylor, and that's Zachary Taylor's son, President Zachary Taylor's son. Mobile, they said, was one of the most heavily defended cities in the South, and the attack was expected, as it obviously happened, to come from across the bay. But what they had set up, they had the fort set up over the bay, Spanish Fort and Fort Blakely. And Sherman actually wrote the battle plan and sent it down to a General Canby, which he's got streets here named after him, which is shocking. But on the western side, our side of the bay, Mobile was surrounded by 3 lines of fortifications, which mounted 300 pieces of heavy artillery. Water approaches to Mobile were defended by a series of underwater obstructions and island and shore batteries. It was said to be the most heavily fortified city in the Confederacy. Well, what they did is the plan was, which they didn't do, this would have seemed impossible, is to basically forge through the marshlands through, up the Tensas and Mobile rivers. Well, obviously Sherman had never been in that country.
Yeah.
Can you imagine in 1865 going through, let's say, where Lake Gravine Island and all that is now, and then come around to the west of the city where the city was open basically there? That'd have been tough to get through that. If the alligators and moccasins didn't get you, the zombies sure would have. So that's we're in swamps. We know that. So they're lucky they didn't have to do that.
They would just have to fight off the zombies that they went through New Orleans. That side. But that's interesting. And that was today when?
In 1865.
Wow. April 11th, 1865.
Right.
All right. Speaking of cities, the judge and I are going to go to the NRA convention in Atlanta. And that's going to be the last weekend of April. And we are looking forward to going to the NRA convention. And if that's something that you have wanted to go and do, to go to an NRA convention, this is definitely the time, because usually it's, up north somewhere, or where's Judge, where it's usually at is usually Indianapolis, Indiana, or something like that.
Cincinnati.
It was once.
At one time it was Nashville.
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
But this is the closest it's probably ever going to be. Now, really nothing happens there. But it's a chance just to see fellow enthusiasts. They have a product display area, which is probably the biggest thing. So if you're into guns, and you're into guns because you're listening to us.
Yep.
And by the way, I heard a rumor that, the Best Housewives of Hollywood or some kind of nonsense is on tonight. I hope there are none of you listening to that, because that just further degrades the morals and values of Middle America, the left coast and the East Coast. And there's nothing to be learned by watching trash like that. So
what I was saying earlier, if you plan on going to the NRA convention, just give us a shout, send us an email, and we'll definitely be looking out for you there.
Oh, I thought you said they could see in your room.
No, maybe yours.
They don't want to see him out. I tell you.
But we're looking forward to going. If you've always want to go to the NRA convention, this is definitely the time to go. Just shoot us an email, adam@armedalabama.com or the judge@armedalabama.com, and we'll definitely be on the lookout for you.
And you don't have to be a member?
Yes, you do. So that's a good point. So if you plan on attending, you need to
join up.
You need to join the NRA, and you need to order your passes, because what you do is
you can do it all in one.
Yeah, you
probably
can.
Need to.
You can go online and you can do everything online, and you can order your passes, and they will mail them to you. You have
what is
to
it,
have
$30 a year or something like that?
I don't know. I don't know if it's that much.
Yeah,
$25 or $30 a year. I said earlier in the show, Judge, that you and I both are NRA or life NRA members,
right?
Or NRA life members, however you want to say it. So that sports entry into the convention. So that's cool. It's going to be neat to go and see all the manufacturer booth there and so forth. Also, Judge, you and I discussed that there is a local NRA group, and they're having an event coming up pretty soon.
There's a group called, and they're all over the country, Friends of the NRA. That's kind of an auxiliary that does other things, because as the NRA tells you real quick, your dues don't cover half the cost of operating this organization. I'm sure it doesn't, because they spend a lot of money, but they're very worthwhile. And their dinner, which they have every year, is at the battleship USS Alabama at 5:30 on May. Let's see. Need to get my contact information here. Just give me a second.
Did I put you on the spot?
Well, you did, but that's all right. I think I've got it right here. Come on. May 18th.
May 18th, yeah.
And they have a silent auction. They have a real auction. Lots of seafood normally. I'm sure they will this time. And I want to give you our contact information. It's probably easier to go ahead and just go to the Friends of the NRA website and just buy your tickets there, rather than bother the gentleman, by calling him up on the phone and buying your tickets there. They'll have what they've done in the past is just had my tickets there at the door when I've done it that way.
Yep.
But just type in your Google Friends of the NRA. That takes you to the website, and then it'll ask you what city, and you say Mobile, Alabama, and it'll get to you that way. Because then when 2 or 3 people call you, that's not a problem. But when you get a couple of hundred people calling you, that's a pain. And I'm sure he's got a lot to do to get ready for this, getting people to advertise and sponsor it and all that.
Right. And if you've never been to an event by the Friends of the NRA, it's definitely a good event. Also, it's just neat to be at the USS Alabama there in the hangar. There's lots of aircraft. There's lots to see there. And it's just really neat.
If you go to Google and just type in Friends of the NRA, the first thing that'll come up, Friends of the NRA Foundation, and one of the subheadings is Find an Event, and this says Alabama Event. So we'll just hit that, and it says Alabama. There was actually one, Mobile, Alabama. All right, Thursday, May 18th, 5:30 p.m. More info. You can hit that if you want. Mobile Bay, Friends of the NRA, location, I got that right. And but if you absolutely have to talk to someone, talk to William Case, C-A-S-E, and his phone number is, of course, 251-753-1020, and you can email him at Mobile Bay FNRA, Mobile Bay FNRA@gmail.com. And but I say it's pretty easy. Tickets are $40 a piece. Couple is $70. So you get a break if you couple, and it's a good event to go to. Listen, even if I don't agree with 100% of what the NRA says, but I don't have any reason to criticize if I can't be a member and vote against certain things. So, ammo question from Wayne.
Yes, sir, Judge. How you doing?
Fine. How about you, Wayne?
Pretty good. Question on 223 and 556. Is that really is that the same ammo other than the English and metric designation? I mean, is it the same shape, size, caliber, everything?
It's not. Let me tell you the easiest thing. If you have a rifle that is labeled 5.56, it will shoot 5.56 and 223.
Okay.
And but watch out kind of for the first generation or so AR-15s, because a lot of them say 223s, but they're really 5.56s. You can find that out generally by looking carefully. It'll be stamped on the barrel somewhere. But I'll tell you, if you have one that's 223, don't be sad about that. There are more varieties of ammunition in 223 than there are hundreds probably in 223, and maybe dozens in 5.56.
Okay.
But if you're going out and buying a new one, try to buy a 5.56 because you have that crossover.
Right. You don't want to shoot a 5.56 NATO in a 223 firearm. Reason being is because there's the higher chamber pressures there, and you could damage your firearm and harm yourself.
But you could go the other way.
Yes. It is backwards compatible, however you want to say that.
Yeah. And, it's not – I'm not going to guarantee you, but I've done it. I know a lot of people have done it, and it didn't blow up, but, it's better not to do it.
Better not to do it. So
yeah.
I saw a Colt the other day at Academy, and it had 5.56 on it.
Okay.
But it could shoot the 223, but not vice versa.
That's correct.
So I guess you'd probably want to get one that had 5.56 on it, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Wouldn't that make more sense?
Yep.
Right. Dimensionally, the rounds are the same.
That's the military round, too, by the way, 5.56.
So they're the same, except there's 5.56 is a little more powerful, and you don't want to shoot it in a 223, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Even a NATO brass is a little bit thicker to help handle the higher pressures.
So if I'm going to get one, I need to get 5.56 rifle, right?
Yes.
And you may wind up shooting 223 in it. As I said, there are a lot more varieties of ammunition.
It's cheaper too.
But you'll have the ability to buy, let's say, XS or 5.56. Got to run to a break. Good question, though.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank y'all.
Welcome back to Armed Alabama.
Did you hear Kay Ivey has appointed him head of the Bureau of Prisons, the commissioner of the Alabama Department of Corrections. That's what I understand.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think that's, I think they don't have to be approved by anybody, just appointed.
Just a little bit left in our show. If you have a comment or question, you can give us a call, 251-343-0106, or you can text to that same number. So we've had several different people have been texting us some gun porn to
we had a picture
site,
of a shotgun there in a car, and I was going to say, in a pump shotgun, and, I'm recoil adverse. I don't like recoil. These reduced recoil shotgun shells, listen, they'll kill you as quick as a full-powered shell will, and in a pump, they're going to work fine. Semi-automatic, you better test it and make sure. But in a pump, they're fine, and they got about third less recoil with it. And everybody makes them now, so I'm not going to go into the brands. But, why not?
Oh, we got a call from Babe Annette. Hi, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
What you got for us?
I've got a Bushmaster, and it says under the barrel 5.56, and on the side where the magazine clip goes in, it says multi-caliber.
Oh, then it's I would suspect very strongly it's a 5.56.
Okay.
And it means it'll take 5.56 and 2.23.
Okay, I just heard you talking about it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I didn't blow my gun up.
Yeah. That I would be shocked if it wasn't. The only other way to tell, and this is hit and miss, is to look it up at the manufacturer's website. But if it's got a little age on it, it may not be there. But having multi-caliber and having the 5.56 on the barrel. Now, if you bought it from somebody who just built a gun, they could get a 5.56 barrel, and put it on to a receiver that was a 220. I just don't.
It was a new gun. It wasn't. It wasn't built. It was a new gun. It's built in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like mine was an old, circa '83, AR-15 A2, and it's just written out Sportster 223.
Right.
Well, that's kind of the name of it. I don't think Sportster 5.56 would have meant a lot to people back then. Never says what caliber it really is. But like I say, if you went to my spot on that barrel and you licked your finger, you could see 5.56 on it.
Right.
So
all right. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Next caller here is Les calling us from Mobile, and he's calling about the appointment to the Department of Corrections.
Les, am I right?
That's right.
Great.
I heard y'all say that, and I hadn't heard that. When did that happen? Was that today?
I think it was in middle of last night.
Middle of last night.
Yeah.
Well, who is it?
That's that Strother. What's his name? That was in Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah.
The head of the chain gang or head of the prison.
Oh, you're not serious. That guy has to be 400 years old.
Well, there's no such thing. You can't discriminate on account of age.
Well, that's true. So y'all need to be nice to me because I'm the oldest.
That's right.
Of the three of us, anyway.
That's it. You are. I know. I'm
All
afraid.
Right. Well, I just hadn't heard that. So what do y'all think Kay Ivey's going to do as governor? She got any agenda items she's going to try and get through in the next 2 years?
I probably ought to tell you privately.
Oh, okay. Well, y'all remember I was the guy that was watching MSNBC in the hospital that time. So
I know.
You can't really trust me anyway.
I know, exactly. I'm surprised you made it out.
Well, I appreciate all y'all do. I enjoy your show tremendously.
Oh,
I listen
Les,
to it
thank
all the
you.
time, and I'm just intimidated to call in because in front of such greatness, it just
my God,
insecure.
You sound great. We ought to have you on. It's no telling what you've got over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm good. As long as I'm not in jail, I'm all right.
That's right.
All right. Well, you guys, thanks for all the information, and you guys have a good rest of the week.
You too, Les.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you calling in.
Hey, Judge, watching MSNBC in your hospital room could prolong your stay.
Yeah, well, it could. It could. You could
especially
it could make you want to leave pretty quick.
Especially if you're, recovering from a heart attack or something.
I shouldn't say this. I evicted a man from his hospital room. He was he'd been all over the state. He was a con man. He would get admitted through the emergency room, some kind of condition, and then once he got in. They'd find him smoking pot and everything in the hospital room, and they'd declare him well. Well, part of the problem was he didn't have any legs, and had some other kind of problem. But there wasn't anything medically wrong, and so I said, "Well, I'll take care of it." I ordered a sheriff to take him and wheel him out to the corner of Broad and Dolphin at 4:30 in the afternoon. Put him there.
So what you're saying, legally, he didn't have a leg to stand on?
He didn't have a leg to stand on.
Got to watch those legs.
He'd done it in Montgomery and done it, and I sent my bailiff with him, and he came back white. He was a young guy. He didn't think that was too nice.
All right, next caller. One more here. Peter's calling from Pensacola.
Hi, gentlemen. I'm so glad to hear you guys talk about the things you have tonight. I want you to know I really enjoyed your show. When I first moved here from South Texas, I just happened to find you by accident, and I was so glad to hear you guys are on the air.
It wasn't an accident. You were led to us.
Divine providence.
I kind of look at it.
Yeah,
I'm glad you guys mentioned the NRA convention because my wife and I are planning on going. We went to the first one in 2013 there in Houston. There's a lot of seminars that are going to be going on as well. It's a whole lot more than what people think. It's not just a giant trade show with vendor booths.
Yeah, you can find a lot to do. And when I say weekend, you really should be there Thursday, early Thursday.
Yep,
but, right. If you can't go to the weekend, you can't go to the weekend. So don't not go because you can't get there until Friday.
That's right. It's only a couple hours drive. They're having even the to be a victim class, which I'd like to be an instructor for. And that one doesn't involve firearms. In fact, I think part of the curricula says no firearms can be present during the course. Mm-hmm. And it is a fantastic course. There are going to be courses on cooking. There's going to be things that have to do with running an organization like Bama Carry and like Florida Carry. and
that's
about
great.
the legislative process on the citizens getting involved.
That's wonderful, because that's what
And
we
now-
need.
Yeah, because the ILA is having several seminars I looked at on the website.
We need people involved.
Yes, they do. And I've met the ILA. You think it's this huge organization. No, it may be 1, 2, or 3 people for a given state. And
That's exactly right.
Yep.
And you usually have to buttonhole the person to do it for the state.
That's right.
Thank you, Peter.
And
Appreciate the call. We're going to go to the next caller here.
Okay.
Dutch has got a question or a comment regarding the multi-caliber rifle.
Dutch, I'm glad you called. I'm doing a paper on nicknames, and I'm going to put you in there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Do you mind telling me what
I was just going to tell you that the multi-cal thing the guy called about his Bushmaster is a little bit more complicated than that, because the upper receiver with the barrel on it, that's 5.56 that you guys were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
A lower that's marked multi-cal can shoot 300 blackout, 9mm, 223, 5.56.
But of course, you got to change the.
You have to change the barrel. Yeah.
Yeah, you change your upper out to achieve that.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that just about with most AR platforms. But like you said, Dutch, there's that multi-cal platform there that's made specifically that lower receiver is to really aid in that conversion.
Exactly. I guess I maybe heard you guys say it was to choose between 223 and 5.56.
No, you did.
But
Yeah, you did.
Thank you for correcting me. Dutch, can I ask you a personal question? What is what is Dutch, your Christian name or your birth name? Just your first name?
It's Hans.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Got
to run. We got 1 minute left. All right.
All right. Bye,
Appreciate it. All right. Well, we're up against the line. We've thanked all our sponsors. Remember our class on the 18th. You can go to our website.
13th.
18th is the
NRA. Yeah.
NRA. You can go to our website and register for it and pay for it and do all that. And we'll be back next week with more Armed Alabama, interesting stuff. Have any questions for us? You know our email. You always go to our website and get it.
All right, next time, this is Armed Alabama.